Hello, and welcome to 5 Minute Math. Today, for our number talk, we are looking at the fraction 6 over 71, or 6/71, and we're trying to decide mentally whether it is closer to 0, 1/2, or 1. So how can we think about this? Well, one way would be to really focus in on that denominator. And we know that when we compare in order fractions, right, we need to make sure that all the denominators are equal. So how can we kind of think about the three quantities we see on the screen, the 0, the 1/2, and 1, as 71sts? Well, 0 can easily be turned into any denominator. You just make that the numerator. So 0 71sts. And I'm already thinking that 6 out of 71 total, that 6 is not that far away from 0. So if I were to guess right now, and we'll get a little bit more technical, I'm guessing it might be closest to 0. Because look at my one whole, 71 over 71. Remember that one whole is any fraction that has the same numerator and denominator. So think about how much closer 6 is to 0 than it is to 71. Now, one way to really narrow it down is start thinking about that 1/2. So what's half of 71? Well, it's an odd number, so that makes it a little bit difficult. But you could still take half of it, you just need a decimal. So let's think of the fractions that would exist on either side. Look at these denominators. What's half of 70? That's 35. Half of 72, 36. So what's in between 35 and 36? It's not going to be a whole number, but it is going to be a decimal, 35 and a half, or most of us know that 0.5 or 5/10 is the same as 1/2. All right, so I've got my 35.5, and we know that 6 definitely does not land between 1/2 and 1. It definitely lands somewhere in between here. Still thinking 6 is closer to 0 than it is to 35. But how can we be sure? Well, if we think of a picture here, and I've got just a basic rectangle, and I cut it in half. If I want to cut my half in half, most of us know half of a half makes fourth. So I'm going to take each of these halves, and I'm going to cut them in half. Right, so this would be 1/4. This would be 2/4, or 1/2. That's 3/4, and then obviously my 1 is my 4/4. Remember, any fraction with the same numerator and denominator is going to be one whole. So I want to see whether that 6/71 is closer to this point or this point right here. Which side of that 1/4 does it land on? Which means I need to take half of my half. And I need to take half of that 35/5. Okay, so this is probably one in which we want to just go ahead and do a little bit of division. If you can do this mentally, that's great. I'll go ahead and do long division so we can see it. So that's going to be 3 and minus 2 is 1. Let's bring that down. That's going to be 15. So that's going to go 17 point, right? That's going to be 14. We've got that 15 left, right? So that's going to be another 7. But we're going to bring a 0 down, and there we go, 75. Okay, so 17 and 3/4. Now, we can evaluate our 6. Is 6 going to be between 0 and 17 and 0.75 or 3/4, or between 7.75 and 35.5? Definitely closer to here. I'm just going to guess it's going to be right there if we need to put it there, because that's a 17 just at that 1/4 mark. So the initial thought was correct, but now we've proved it. 6/71 is closest to 0.